Hey everybody, this is Dead Winter Dead with another Battlefield 4 video for you. Well, it's finally happened. DICE has finally broken their silence on the incoming patch notes and some of the weapon tweaks and balances that we're going to be seeing. And it looks pretty good to me so far. I don't have too many complaints. I might have one little weird thing that is a little bit odd, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Now, there's already been several other YouTubers who have put out this information, and the information is readily available on Battlelog, so I apologize if you've already seen this. If you haven't, stick around, and I'll give you a complete rundown of the patch notes that DICE has released thus far. Alright, let's get into this. The first thing we're going to look at is the mobile AA. Now, I'm excited about this for two reasons. I don't really fly aircraft that much, and I'm not very good at it. But when I do, I almost always get destroyed by the mobile AA. It's annoying. And one of those reasons is because the mobile AA carries 6 anti-air missiles. DICE is going to be reducing that from 6 to 4. And the reason behind that is because it was completely impossible for air vehicles to countermeasure that many rockets. As a mobile AA pilot, you could just fill the sky full of anti-air missiles, and vehicles just didn't have a chance. So they're going to reduce that from 6 to 4, and I think that will actually help air vehicles stay in the air a little bit longer. The other thing they're doing, the 20mm cannon that is the default weapon for the mobile AA, they're going to reduce its velocity from 1200 meters per second down to 800 meters per second, which will match the muzzle velocity of the 30mm upgraded cannon that you get a little bit later on in that upgrade tree. Now, this is going to, in theory, this is going to reduce the distance that projectiles can travel. And one of the reasons for this is because there are some maps, and I'm talking about you, Land King Dam, that a mobile AA can sit in the safety and protection of its spawn and literally take down enemy vehicles as they take off out of their spawn. For those of you who know Land King Dam, it's a horseshoe-shaped kind of a map, and you can sit in your spawn in that mobile AA and just rape air vehicles before they even get a chance to get over their own base. I mean, as soon as they get off the ground, you can just wipe them clean out of the air, which, you know, that's not fair. I mean, your uncapped should kind of be a place of safety, and it should be a place where you can get your bearings before you head out to the battlefield. And chopper pilots were finding that as soon as they rose up into the air, they were getting locked onto or just completely wiped away by those cannons. So they're going to be reducing that. The other thing they're going to be doing is they're going to reduce the physical impact that all of the anti-aircraft missiles have when they strike an air vehicle in flight. One of the things that was happening was if you were performing any type of maneuver, if you were banking or trying to turn around to reapproach a target, if you were hit by an AA missile, it would flip your vehicle completely over, and basically you were done. I mean, as soon as you flipped over on your axis, you were done. You had to bail out, or you just had to ride that thing down and take the kill. It's very, very difficult to get out of those, especially for like the attack choppers who have to come in low for those anti-vehicle strafe runs, or the scout choppers who have to come in low for the anti-infantry strafing runs. If you were hit by a missile, you simply flipped, and boom, you were out of the fight. So they're going to reduce the physical damage, or the physical impact that has on those air vehicles in flight. They're going to be increasing the direct hit damage for the Zuni rockets, and I've never really used the Zuni rockets. I didn't realize that there was an issue with them, but apparently there was just an issue for it had something to do with that there weren't enough Zuni rockets, and you had so few of them, and their damage was so low. They weren't really a viable choice going into the battlefield, so apparently nobody was using them, which was odd because I tend to see them a lot. I'm not sure why, but they're going to be increasing the damage for those. They're also going to be reducing the splash damage and the maximum splash damage range that the Scout helicopter's 25mm cannons do. The whole point of the 25mm, they were supposed to be anti-vehicle weapons, but pilots realized very early on that they actually are more effective at taking out infantry. The splash damage was so ridiculous, and the direct damage was ridiculous, that Scout choppers just dominated maps. They just raped infantry all day, every day. If you get a competent pilot or someone who's just an excellent pilot, they will stay alive all day, all day long. They'll have their little repper in the back, just repping them up, and they will destroy infantry, especially on very open maps like Silk Road and Altai Range. It was just a hassle for people who are, you know, mostly infantry players like myself, to have Scout choppers basically be this unstoppable force in the sky. So they're going to be reducing that so they're not as effective versus infantry, and a little more effective versus vehicles, which was their original intent. Alright, let's move on to tanks and, I should actually say anti-tank weaponry. The Law missiles, which everybody knows is, I mean, they're just, they're lock-on missiles. The guidance system on the Laws were way too, basically they were just OP. It took almost zero skill at all. You could hide behind the corner of a building or hide behind a large rock and just fire law after law after law at a tank. And because the reload times were so quick on them and they took no skill to fire, you basically just had to point in the general direction of the tank and the missile would automatically kind of just track and hit your target. I mean, that's just it's a little bit too OP, especially since the Law, I believe, is it's the first anti-tank weapon that engineers start out with. So, you know, you've got level 1 players who all of a sudden have this anti-tank weapon that takes absolutely no skill to use. So they're going to be reducing basically the intelligence of the tracking system for those Laws. So you have to be a little bit more accurate with them, and you have to get the missile a little bit closer to the vehicle before it will actually lock onto it and you know, track it and, you know, hit it with any sort of accuracy. You know, gone will be the days of just kind of firing in the general direction of the tank and scoring that hit every single time. Myself, I prefer rockets that have no guidance systems. You know, I like the you know, the RPGs. It's just, you know, for me, I think it's a little more skilled to have to be able to lead your target and have to be able to aim exactly where you want that rocket to fire. I always feel cheap and dirty whenever there's a lock-on missile. It's just, I don't know. That's just my play style. I don't really find lock-on missiles fun to use, because when you do score a hit, you're like, you know, that really wasn't me. That was the guidance system of the rocket. But when I score a hit with an RPG, you know, if I blow a Scout chopper out of the sky with an RPG, I'm like, that was all me, baby. So I think this will be fun. It will force players to be a little bit more skilled when they fire their rockets, which is good all around for the game. They're also going to be fixing issues with the M2 slams. Now they'll be reducing the damage from 6 meters down to 3 meters. So if a vehicle has to be 3 meters or closer to the M2 slam for it to actually activate, or at least receive maximum damage. Now this is the one that's a little bit confusing to me, because I think their reasoning behind this was they want players to kind of gravitate towards either the slams or the M15 anti-tank mines, and it really doesn't have anything to do with the damage. It has to really do with the M2s are just so much more effective tool. They're a lot more versatile. You don't just drop them on the ground and hope a tank runs over them. You can stick them onto surfaces. You can they can be on a vertical surface, a horizontal surface. You can stick them anywhere, and so they're a lot easier to hide, and they're a lot more versatile when you're placing them. The other thing, obviously, which is something I love to do, is you can stick them on vehicles as well, and when that vehicle reaches its maximum velocity, whatever its top speed is, they automatically detonate. And while that trick is a little bit dirty, it's a heck of a lot more versatile than just throwing down an AT mine. The other thing too is it takes 3 anti-tank mines to destroy pretty much any vehicle. Minus say the little buggies or the dirt bikes, but any real vehicle that's going to pose a real threat, an armored vehicle, it takes at least 3 of those mines to do that. And honestly, the maps really aren't kind of geared towards anti-tank mines. For those of you who played Bad Company 2, if you remember in the Vietnam DLC, there was a map there called Operation Hastings, which was a fun map, and there were several little kind of rivers and inlets that kind of crisscrossed through the map, and you could actually hide the mines underwater, which made them a lot more difficult to detect. And when the tanks drove through these little shallow, try to ford these little shallow rivers, they would explode. Even the little attack boats, if you could plant AT mines in the shallow water near attack boats, and when someone jumped in the attack boat and drove over them, they would also explode. So I think it has less to do with how much damage the M2s do, but more to do with it's just a better choice. It's a better weapon choice to take out to the field if you're going to operate in an anti-vehicle capacity. So that one was a little bit weird to see. They're also going to be reducing the damage the staff shell does to all targets by 25%, and that's going to balance basically the way the staff shell is used. Right now, what you can do is you can alternate between your basic starter shell, between the staff shell and the starter shell, to just kind of do this kind of fire one shell, switch over, fire another shell, switch back to your main cannon, and fire a third shell, and just destroy tanks. I think they're actually trying to address that problem, because tankers were saying if you run this kind of an anti-tank role in your tank, you basically become a tank destroyer, in that no other armored vehicle can really deal with you unless they're running this exact same setup. So they're going to be addressing that. There may be some other tweaks in this patch. We don't know right now, but from what it looks like, I'm gonna be pretty happy with it. I'll be pretty impressed with it if they can actually pull this off and make it work the way it sounds on paper. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this look at the patch notes. My name's Dead Winter Dead. Thanks for watching.